And this class will be taught in tandem. I will teach part of it, and Karen will add some information as well about using the analysis views on account schedules. So we'll go ahead and get started, and what I'll probably do is I'll mute everyone, and then I'll try to stop and ask for questions. And at the very end, if for some reason you don't get your question answered, because we'll try to have Kim Marie monitor the little chat box so that if I don't happen to see something come up on chat, then we can make sure that we get to your questions. So I'll go ahead and mute everyone, and then we'll get started. And Kim Marie will start the recording. Actually, it looks like she's already started the recording. Great. All right, let me see if I can get the mute to work properly here.
I can do it. Connie, I've got everybody but you on mute, I think. Connie, you've got yourself on mute.
Well, apparently I've muted myself, so I apologize. I will start over from the beginning in case none of that was heard by anyone but myself and Kim Marie. Today's class is on analyzing the general ledger data, and this class will cover the difference between global and shortcut dimensions, how to access the general ledger data from the chart of accounts, and how to analyze the GL data by different dimensions using analysis views and account schedules. We're going to review dimensions in a little bit of detail here, but not a ton. An actual class will be covered, or I'm sorry, dimensions will be covered in more detail in a separate class that's offered on August 20th. So if you haven't already signed up for that class and you wish to do so, make sure you let us know and we'll get you signed up for that. So again, we're going to go over what the difference is between global and shortcut dimensions. Let me first take you to the General Ledger Setup window. And on the General Ledger Setup window, this is where we define on the Dimensions Fast tab what our global dimensions are going to be and what our shortcut dimensions are going to be. Just as an overview, global dimensions are the two dimensions that are posted directly to and stored in the General Ledger entry, Customer Ledger entry, Vendor Ledger entry, Item Ledger entry, and other tables. Global dimensions are the primary dimensions for analysis of the general ledger data. They are the dimensions that display on order headers, such as purchase orders, donation orders, sales orders, etc., and they flow to the lines if populated. However, you can still fill them in on the lines if they are not on the header. So know that you're going to have two places where the dimensions exist on documents, in the header as well as on the lines. Global dimensions will also be your first two shortcut dimensions by default. So if you look at the screen, you'll notice that we have our global dimensions defined as department and project, and our first two shortcut dimensions are also department and project. Shortcut dimensions are additional dimensions that you would like to track. They are also available to display on order and journal lines, but the data populated in those fields are posted to and stored in a subtable for dimensions called a ledger entry dimension table. So that's important if you're using jet reports or other reporting tools to get the data. You may need to use additional tables to find those shortcut dimensions. They are called shortcut dimensions because you don't have to go to a different form to enter them. You just have a shortcut on the form to that dimension, and you can drill down, use the drop down to select the additional shortcut dimension that you want to have on your form. So again, we have added in a shortcut dimension 3 code, in this case of GL branch, and a shortcut dimension 4 code of function. To find those shortcut dimension codes to define, you would click on the drill down here and select from the available codes. Now you'll notice that we only have 4 dimensions in entirety defined, so we can only choose 4 here. However, if you wish to create additional dimensions, those can be added in the dimension setup window. And you can add them here under dimensions and create your additional dimensions and then define them as the shortcut dimension codes that you would like. Both shortcut dimensions and global dimensions can be used in analysis views to provide additional ways to analyze the GL data. Up to 8 global and shortcut dimensions can be added on order and journal lines without having to access them from a different form to add the dimension values. So keep that in mind, that you can put up to 8 on forms, and it is possible to add more than 8 shortcut dimensions. However, you would have to go to a different form when you're, there's like a second layer that you have to go to in order to add those additional dimensions, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So again, this is in the general ledger setup, and this is where we define what are going to be our global dimension codes and what are going to be our shortcut dimension codes. And there's a difference between the global dimension codes in that they are the 2 codes that post to all the tables that are affected by the different document transaction posting, whereas your shortcut dimension codes are going to be stored in a separate table for for ledger entry dimensions. So those are the main differences. So we'll go ahead and close out of our general ledger setup. And I just want to show you how we can enter our global and shortcut dimensions on different forms. So for example, if we go to a purchase order and we open up a purchase order, so give me a moment here and I'll get there. And we'll go to one that I've already started. And if we go to the purchase order, we don't see on the General tab the dimensions that we have defined on the vendor. However, if we minimize our lines fast tab here and we go to our invoicing fast tab, if there are default dimensions that are stored on the vendor, those will flow to the invoicing tab. And if they do not flow, or you want to change the department, or whatever your global and shortcut dimensions are on the order header, then you can change them here on the invoicing fast tab. Anything that you enter on the invoicing fast tab as far as your dimensions will flow to the lines of the order once you start to input the lines. If you wish to override that information, you can do so on the lines themselves. We'll go ahead and minimize the invoicing tab, and we'll open up the lines tab. And I've already entered an item on this line, and you can see that the information populated here on the line. Now the department code is different than the department code that we saw on the invoicing tab, and that's because I chose to override the department code from the header. So I can actually post different information as far as the dimensions on the lines than what posts to the header information on this particular document. So keep that in mind for all different types of documents as well as journals as to what information you post and where. So if I add a new line to the order and pick a different item number, you'll notice that the department code is 1500, whereas up here I had it as 4000. And that's because the department code on our invoicing tab from the header was 1500. So it flows, any information that flows, or I'm sorry, that's on the header will flow to the lines. Now, if for some reason I don't have any information on the header, and you'll notice that if I try to take it off of the header, it will say that you have changed the dimension. Do you want to update the lines? So if I only want to take it off the header, but I don't want to remove that information from the lines, then I would choose no to update the lines. But if I do want to update the line so that it flows with the information from the header, then I would choose yes. I'm going to go ahead and choose no there. So I can not post any dimensions if I want to the vendor side of this transaction and only post dimensions to the inventory side of this transaction. So you have some flexibility as to what dimensions, if any, you post on different sides of the transactions. And we'll take a look in just a moment at the general ledger and see how this information posts. I'm going to go ahead and close out of the purchase order and then show you that, for example, in a purchase or journal, let's go to a purchase journal here. This would be the same as like a GL journal or any other type of journal. You'll have access to these global and shortcut dimensions to add them on your lines. So we'll go ahead and go to a purchase journal. And let's expand this here so you can see it. And it looks like I must have used a payment journal before in my practice, so we'll do that because I already have the dimensions showing on there. So you want to make sure if you're going to be entering your global and shortcut dimensions that you display them on your form. It just makes it easier to make sure that you don't miss those when you're posting transactions. So for example, in this particular form, I'm showing my 2 global dimensions, department and project, and my 2 shortcut dimensions, GL branch and function. If you have additional dimensions that you're tracking, then you can add them here up to 8 in the form itself. If you have more than 8 dimensions, which hopefully most of you do not, but if you do, if you want to track additional dimensions, you can go to the action pane if you have it displayed up here in your action pane, or go to related information and then line dimensions. And then you can add additional dimensions, as many as you need in this form here. So this is that separate layer of dimensions that I was referring to. But if you have only 8 or less, then you can have them all displayed on the form itself, and then you can select the dimension from the drop-down and select whatever is necessary in order to post this transaction. Keep in mind that if you have requirements for posting with certain dimensions, then you'll have to fulfill those requirements before the journal will post. Same with the documents. So if it's been set up to require certain dimensions or just require that a dimension exists for one of those particular global or shortcut dimensions, or I should say dimension value exists for one of those, then you'll have to populate those fields before it will allow you to post the journal. So again, you have access to those shortcut and global dimensions here on the form up to 8, and then any additional ones that you have to or want to enter, you'll need to go to dimensions in order to add those. Excuse me, I had to take a quick drink of water there. Okay, so we've now shown you that the global and shortcut dimensions are available on documents as well as on forms. And once those are posted, then that information is transferred to the general ledger. And as I mentioned, only the global dimensions post directly to the general ledger entries. So those are the dimensions that you will see values for when you look at your chart of accounts. And if you want to see the additional information detail, then you will want to do either a GL dimension overview or do analysis views to see that information. So I'm in the general ledger chart of accounts, and I'm going to set a filter here for a couple accounts that I want to look at. Now I'm seeing only the accounts that I want to look at in my list view, and maybe I want to find out some more information about what transactions posted to these accounts and what dimensions were used on those transactions. I can drill down in either the net change or the balance columns to see more information about the transactions that make up the values that you see here on this list view. And once I'm sorry, I just drilled down on the wrong, I did the wrong thing there, I apologize. I want to go to drill down, not edit. So now I'm seeing all the transactions that have posted to this account. Now if I want to put in a filter for a posting date range so I can see just transactions in the posting date range that I want to view, I can enter my posting date range. And now I'm seeing the transactions just for this GL account and this posting date range. If you want to view information on GL accounts in this posting date range and you don't want to specify just a single account, you can remove that filter here and it will show you all accounts that were posted to in that date range. And you may wonder how I got this additional filtering window. You can do that by going to this General Ledger Entries button at the top of your form and going to Advanced Filter. And you can see that Advanced Filter is currently checked on mine. That's why it's showing this. But if you didn't have Advanced Filter showing, then your screen would look like this. And if you want to add more filters to your window, simply choose Advanced Filter, and then you have that option. Now, I've chosen to show all GL accounts that were posted to within this posting date range. You can limit that to a set of accounts. If they're not in sequence, you have to put the pipe sign in between. For example, I would enter my account numbers, enter the first one, put in my pipe sign, and then you can see them populate here in this little window, so you know that you've selected or entered the right accounts. And now it limits to the 2 accounts that I selected. You'll notice before I put in those 2 accounts, I saw additional lines of entry in here. So you can see on the screen that I can see the department and project code, which are my 2 global dimensions. However, if I want to view information associated with those shortcut dimensions, then I would have to go up here to the GL Dimension Overview, which is in my Action pane, or if you don't have it in your Action pane, you can go to Related Information, Entry, and then GL Dimension Overview. This brings me to the Edit GL Entries Dimension window, and it shows me the column set that I have, and if I want more than that, I would hit on Next Set, but since I only have 4 dimensions set up, the department, project, GL branch, and function, they're actually all included in here. You probably can't tell that from that listing of column set, but when I click on Show Matrix, it's going to show me all 4 of my dimensions. So if those values were populated, then they will show here in this GL Dimension Overview. So I couldn't see the 2 shortcut dimensions from the previous screen, but now I can. And I can do additional filtering here in the GL Entries Dimension Overview matrix to filter by department and project, but I can't filter by my 2 shortcut dimensions that I have. If you click on the Add and you go to look at the available filters that you have, you'll notice that under Visible Columns, of course, it doesn't show department, project, branch, or function. But if I go to all columns, I can see that I have department code and I have project code. Where did you go, project code? Right here. And I can filter by those 2, but I cannot filter by GL branch or by function. You'll notice GL branch doesn't show up here, nor does function. So when you're in the overview, you have more visibility to your shortcut dimensions, but you still don't have filtering options, which you will get with analysis views. So it allows you to see some of the information, but doesn't allow you to filter. Again, I can filter by department if I wish to. So I can come in here and say I want to see everything that was to department 000. And now I've limited what I can see in my window, but I cannot do the same for for branch and for function, only for the 2 global dimensions. So you have some access to viewing information in the GL Entries Dimension Overview, but you can't do as much filtering here as you might like. So we'll go ahead and close out of here. And in order to get some additional filtering options, you'll want to set up some analysis views. And to set up analysis views, I'm going to go ahead and go here to the Analysis Views window, which is located under Departments, Administration, Application Setup, Financial Management, Financial Management, and Dimensions. And at this point, we can go ahead and choose Analysis Views. You'll see that we have a couple analysis views already set up, and we're going to go ahead and create a brand new analysis view. Just an overview of analysis views. We talked about dimensions, and we'll just say in financial analysis, a dimension is data that you can add to an entry as a kind of marker, and data with like characteristics, so your dimensions, then can be grouped together for analysis. And those dimensions can be used on entries in journals, documents, and even on budgets. The term dimension itself describes how the analysis occurs. So a 2-dimensional analysis, for example, would be something like expenses per department. But by using more than 2 dimensions when creating an entry, so you've entered your department, your project, and maybe even branch or function in this example, you can carry out a more complex analysis. So to do that, we set up analysis views. I don't know if we have anyone on our training. I think there was someone signed up, but I don't know if they're on, that uses Navigator. But in Navigator, they're called GL dimensions. So in our food bank world, they're called analysis views, and then in Navigator, they're called GL dimensions. So to set up the analysis view, we go to our analysis view window, and to create a brand new one, we click on New. And we have to give it a code for our analysis view. And typically we want to create a code that is fairly self-explanatory. I'm going to create one that has all of my dimensions, both global and shortcut, and is for my income statement analysis. So I'm going to call it all dem is. And then of course the name will be a little more descriptive. So I can call this all dimensions for income statement. And again, you can select your code and enter the name, whatever makes the most sense for you for tracking. Then in the GL account filter window, here we will set a filter to specify the GL accounts that will be included in the analysis view. By setting a filter here, you specify that only entries posted to the filtered accounts will be included when the analysis view is updated. So because I'm talking about income statement, I may want to set this only to my income statement accounts. Well, preferably I would set it for my income statement accounts in this particular database. It is this GL account filter. Now the date compression is the length of period whose entries will be combined. So if you want to combine the entries by day, then you would select day. And you have options here in your drop-down for other ways that you can combine the data. Day is a standard date compression, so we'll go ahead and select day. The starting date field, by entering the starting date here, you specify from which date the GL entries will be included in your analysis view. All entries that are posted on or after the date you enter will be compressed to the level defined here in your date compression. And all entries posted prior to the date that you enter here will be compressed into one entry and given the date immediately prior to your starting date. So if you enter a starting date here, for example, of 07/01/14, then anything prior to that date will be compressed and have an entry of 6/30/2014. In the fund filter field, if you want to select a fund filter for your analysis view, then you can select it from your drop-down, or you can leave it blank and it will include all funds if you're tracking by fund. And then if you're using branches or responsibility centers, you can also enter a filter. We're not using any responsibility center, so we will not enter a branch filter here. You'll notice there are 3 fields that are grayed out. These are the last date updated, the last entry number, and last budget entry number. Those are system-generated fields, so when the analysis view is updated, then this gets populated, and when an entry is posted to the analysis view or updated by using the update function, then it will show you the last entry here, as well as if you're including budgets, it will show you the last budget entry. We'll look at one that's already been updated in just a moment, and I'll show how those fields are updated. In the update on posting field, place a check mark in this field if you would like the system to automatically update the analysis view every time that you post an entry. So if you click, for example, we're going to go ahead and click on Update on Posting here. And I want to show you that if you use F1, which is the Help feature, it will bring up your Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2009 Help, or if you're on 2013, it'll bring up the help for that, and it will show you information about the field that you're on. So for example, here we were on the update on posting field, so it tells you that if you place a check mark in the field, then the program will automatically update the analysis view every time you post an entry. And the function will only update the analysis view with GL entries. So to update with budget entries, you must click Actions, Update, or use the Update Analysis View batch job. So just remember, if you are using budget entries on your analysis view, then in order to get the budget entries, you have to run the Update Analysis View batch job or click Actions Update, either from your action pane or from the analysis view itself. So again, I got to that by clicking on F1 when I was on that line. So I want my particular analysis view to update on posting, so I go ahead and check that box. If you do not check that box, then you'll need to manually update the analysis view before running any reports or analysis based on that view. I've added the update function to my action pane, but if you don't have it on your action pane, you can go to Actions and then Update. Include budgets. Place a check mark in this field if you want to include your budget entries when updating the analysis view. So again, in order to update budget information, you have to run the update function in order to get that information on the analysis view. I'll go ahead and choose Include Budgets. The Blocked field, if you want to block the analysis view so that it cannot be updated, then you would place a check mark here. Neither the Update on Posting function nor the Update on Analysis View batch job can be used to update an analysis view while it is blocked. So if you block this, then it won't allow you to run the updates. However, you could still come back and unblock the analysis view and run those if desired or when desired. So this field can be toggled on and off, but just know that if it's currently marked as blocked, then Update on Posting won't occur. And you can't run the Update Analysis View batch job until you have unblocked it. In the Dimensions Fast tab of our analysis view, here's where we select what dimensions we want included in our analysis view. So because this one is called All Dimensions for Income Statement, I want to include all my dimensions. Now I can choose how they display in my analysis view. If I don't want my global dimensions first, then I can pick dimension 1 as one of my other shortcut dimensions. But I want to keep them in order of how I normally use them. So I'm going to choose Department as my dimension 1 because that was my first global dimension and first shortcut dimension. And then I'll choose Project as my second dimension because that's my second global and second shortcut dimension. And then my global dimension, or sorry, my shortcut dimension 3 is GL branch and 4 is function. But again, you can choose how you want these to display on your analysis view by selecting them in order. Now, you only see 4 dimensions available here, and if you want to add additional dimensions besides the 4 that are showing here, you have to go to Related Information, Analysis, and Filter, or I've added the filter option on my action pane. So I can go here and add additional dimensions. Now, we only have 4 in this database, so that's all that's going to display here. But if you have more than 4 dimensions set up, then when you choose the drop-down here, you can add your additional dimensions to the form here. Okay, so we've added our dimensions, and we've selected the order that we want to show them in, and we've also selected our GL account filter, how we want to compress it, and the starting date for our data. When we want to update that information, we can run the update either from here on the card itself or from the list. You'll notice that I've added update to the action pane of the list view as well, or you can go to Actions and then go to Update here. We'll go ahead and do it from the card. And it prompts me, do I want to update the analysis view for my all dimension IS? And I'll say yes. And this is actually creating the analysis view entries. And you'll notice that as soon as that completes, then my last date updated, my last entry number, and my last budget entry number have been populated on the analysis view. So I now have the analysis view created and updated. If you need to update any other analysis views, then you would want to go to the analysis view, and you can either view the analysis view by right-clicking on it and choosing Edit. It's different from this Edit Analysis View up here in the Action pane. That actually allows me to run an analysis view overview, whereas here allows me to go into the analysis view card and make changes to it. So this takes me back to that card that we were just on, whereas if I go to edit analysis view from the action pane or from actions and then edit analysis view, it actually takes me to a screen where I can start to view the data from this analysis view. So I have my window up here. I can select which analysis view. It automatically populates with the one that I was on when I went to edit analysis view. But if I want to view a different analysis view, I can select from the list here. And then in the show as lines, I can select the dimensions and dimension values that I want to show as lines in my analysis by dimensions window, and I can choose from the drop-down list. So I have GL account selected, so that means I'm going to see the GL account information as lines on my overview. Show as columns is available here also in the General Fast tab, and you can select the dimension and dimension values that you want to show as columns in the analysis by using the drop down here. So you'll see the same options here, but this will be what you want to see in your column. So I've selected period. And you'll notice that if I was to change that, now right now I don't have a date filter defined, so my column set showing me a very interesting number down here. So just for a moment here, we'll go ahead and put in a date filter. And oops, sorry, I lost my... There we go. Now down here in my column set, it shows me what's going to actually show because I have my view by as day. Obviously, if I change my view by to week, then it's just going to show me one column, and that's my column set based on my date filter that I've entered here. So if you were to enter an entire month and your view by was week, then you would get your data set in 4 columns based on the 4 weeks, or perhaps 5 columns if you have 5 weeks in the month. If I change my show as columns up here, then it's going to change what my column set shows as down below. So for example, if I chose department as my column set, then it changes what I see down here. Now obviously week doesn't really make sense as far as your departments, but if you change the view by, it could change what shows in your column set down here. So just keep that in mind as you're choosing what you want to show in your lines and your columns. I'm going to go back and choose period again. And then as soon as I change it, it of course lost my date filter because I changed to department. And with department, you don't really have a date filter, so I have to populate my date filter again. And maybe I don't want to see all of the GL accounts that are in my analysis view, so it populates this field with the defaulted GL accounts that you set up in your analysis view. But if you want to just show certain GL accounts, you can populate that information here. So I only want to see my GL accounts from 89500 through the end of my account list. So I populate that here on my analysis by dimensions, and so that's what I will see when I go ahead and run the matrix. You can also add filters. Business unit, we don't have any, so I can't select a filter there. A budget filter, you can choose from your drop-down. If you want to enter a fund filter, you can do that as well. If using responsibility centers, then you can choose from your responsibility centers to filter by. So this was the kind of stuff that I was talking about, how in the general ledger dimension overview, you couldn't filter by these things. You could only see those shortcut dimensions when you're looking at that overview, but you couldn't use filters on them to get additional detail or to filter by detail. So the analysis view allows you to do that. So if, for example, if I only want to see information posted to my 4000 department, then I would enter that filter here. And that will shrink what I see as far as my data. So I'll show it to you with department filter 4000 selected and without, so you can see the difference. And again, you have your additional shortcut dimensions, global and shortcut dimensions that show here that you can choose from for filtering. On the Options Fast tab, you have a excuse me, a choice of selecting to show your actual amounts, budgeted amounts, variance, which is the variance between your actual amounts and budgeted amounts, a variance percentage, which would be the percentage between your variance of actual amounts and budgeted amounts. And if you show a negative percentage, it means that your actual amounts are less than the budgeted amounts. And then you also have index percent. And in this case, it would show the variance percentage between your actual amounts and budgeted amounts as an index. And again, if you want additional information on what these mean, you can always hit F1, and it brings up more information about the field. So you don't necessarily have to have a document in front of you with this information about analysis views, but you can go use the F1 feature to get to the help and see more information about each field behind the analysis view, and in this case the analysis view editing, which we're going to show at a matrix here in just a moment. So you can get that information in case you've forgotten what each one means. In the show amount field, we can choose to display just amounts, regardless of whether they're debit or credit amounts. Or if we want to see just debit amounts, we would select that option. And if we want to display only credit amounts, we would choose that option. We also have an option to either include or exclude, exclude closing entries. On our review or analysis view, I've chosen to exclude closing entries. My date range wouldn't have any closing entries in it, but if you're running this for a different date range and you want to include your closing entries, then you can choose that in the drop-down menu by selecting Include. I also have a rounding factor option, so if I don't want to round at all, I can choose none, and if I want to round to 1, I can choose 1, and if you want to see it in thousands and so far, you can just choose from those different ones. And if you're not sure what you want to see it in, just choose a different option, see how it looks, and then go back if you don't like it. You can also choose none, and it won't round at all. So we'll go ahead and set it back to 1. We also have some options here for showing the column name or showing opposite sign. You can play with this, so if you want to try it with column name, you can check this box, and then if you don't like how that looks, you can uncheck it and review it again. Opposite sign, so if you want your debits to be shown as negative amounts, those, in other words, those with minus signs, and credits to be shown as positive amounts in the matrix view, then you would choose the show as opposite sign. In our Matrix View Fast tab, here we can choose how we want to show our information. Do we want it by day? Do we want it by week, by month, by quarter, etc.? Again, I have a very small subset of data here, so I'm going to show it by day. But if you're using a larger set, then you may wish to change how that view by is formatted. And once I select my view by, then of course it changes my column set here to show how many columns you're going to have on your, on your overview of this analysis view. So if I set it to week, then of course I only get one column set. Finally, on the right, we have the View As. You can choose either net change or balance at date. If you choose net change, it will display the net change in the balances for the relevant time interval. Or if you choose balance at date, it will display the balance as of the last date in the relevant time interval. So whatever your last date is here, it will show the balance as of that date. And then when we are ready to show our matrix, we click on Show Matrix. And now we can see the information based on what we selected. So we selected to show our GL accounts as lines, and we selected to show our periods as columns. Now we want to drill down and see the information that actually shows us what our different dimensions were on these entries. We can select either from whatever column they show up in or the total amount column if desired, and then choose Drill Down. And you'll notice here we can actually see all of the information showing us our global and shortcut dimensions. So we can see our GL account number, our department, our project code, branch. We don't have any function codes identified when it was posted, and then the amounts show here as well. Now, if you want to, sorry, we can't do it from here, but if you want to export the information to Excel, you have that option from the action pane here in your analysis by dimensions matrix, or you can go to Actions, Send to, and Excel. You can also send it to a recipient as an attachment if you want, or create a Word document. So that's how we get to information through the analysis view. And if we want to see additional information, we can go ahead and drill down here, and we can see that information. And we can also use the analysis views that we've created in account schedules and column layouts. And we're going to switch over to Karen in just a moment to do that. But before we do, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions on creating the analysis view, or if there was some other burning question you had for prior to that, go ahead and either ask it. Well, I guess since you're muted, you'll have to put the question in the chat box, unless Kim Marie wants to unmute. And we'll go ahead and take questions here, and then if not, we'll switch over and have Karen show her screen and show us the analysis views and account schedules.
While we're waiting, I just want to see if people can hear me. Is this Karen?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So I'm assuming they can as well. No questions?
So,
all right, well, we'll go ahead and let Karen take over. So Kim Marie's going to switch to showing, making Karen the presenter and then showing her screen. And she will go ahead and show the analysis views and account schedules.
alrighty, what I have displaying is the same database that Connie was in. And so I'm just going to continue on with what Connie was showing you about how to analyze your data and analysis views. So the first place that we're going to go is we're going to go to the chart of account. So we can take a look at one GL account. This is the GL account that I've created an account schedule for. It's a very simple account schedule for this class, just so that we can see the data. So I'm going to go to General Ledger, and I'm going to come to my chart of accounts, and I'm going to go to a specific GL account that we have. I'm one of the donor ones, so if I can't find it by the number, I'll find it by the name. So what I'll do,
899500.
Connie has it memorized. All right, so here we have this one account that we've used our global dimensions, and we've used our shortcut dimensions. So I'm going to come over here to the net change column, and I'm going to drill down so we can see the entries. And like Connie had mentioned, the only transactions you'll see here in the general ledger entries are your two globals. I want to see my shortcut dimensions, so I need to go into overview. Before I do that, I'm going to filter, so I'm not looking at all these transactions because I know my entries were posted during August. So I'm just going to come down here. This is advanced filters, and I'm going to set it to the posting date, and I'll set it to 8/1 through today. So here we have some transactions. You can see again that we're using our two globals, department and project, on some of the entries. But I'm also now going to go into overview so we can see what shortcut dimensions we've used on these entries. And the purpose of doing this is so that we go run the account schedules, that we can basically verify back the data. You'll notice here in this overview, you'll see on several of the lines that we've used GL branch, and we've used, again, project and department global. So we used GL branch, which was one of our shortcuts, but we haven't used function. So again, this is a simple example. So I'm going to go now to account schedules and column layout to see how you can filter by your shortcut dimensions on your account schedules and how you can get your shortcut dimensions to actually display on the lines of the account schedule or in the columns of your account schedule. So So I'm going to first go out to account schedules and look at the setup for the account schedule. When you're doing your search over here, you will see account schedule and you will see account schedule. The account schedule is the report. The account schedule is actually the setup. So I first want to go to the setup, so I'm going to go to account schedule. And when I come here, you will see my list of account schedule names. The other thing that you'll notice is that you'll see some of these account schedules are linked to an analysis view. You'll see that I have these two that are linked to an analysis view. One of these account schedules I'm actually filtering by my shortcut dimension on the lines in the account schedule itself. The other one I'm not. So that's why I have some of these kind of unique names. So it tells me that I have the GL branch filter on the lines with my analysis view. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. And basically, once you have an analysis view attached to your account schedule, what it will do is it will start displaying on the line the shortcut dimension names. So see where you can see GL branch totaling and function totaling, because those are two shortcuts. The name of those dimensions display because I have an analysis view attached. Watch what will happen if I come back out here, and I'll go ahead and edit this, and I'll take this off. When you do start taking analysis views off, what I do is I always just escape. I do an refresh just to make sure I'm looking at the newest view. So see how I took the analysis view off this one? So now when I basically go into edit this account schedule, what you'll see is that basically the column headers are no longer there. So if you're not seeing the column headers there, what you really want to do is go back and reset it so you have an analysis view so those show up. Alright, so what I have on this one, go edit again, is that you will see I have two lines. It's basically the same GL account and a total. And what I've done on the lines is actually set a GL branch filter. So what we'll see when we run this account schedule is we'll see any transactions for this GL account for location 1 on line 1 and any transactions for that same GL account on line 2. Again, this is a very simple example. So what I'm going to do, you could actually print it from here. If you do print it from here, this is the landscape one only. Sometimes I'll come print it from here just because it will remember my filters. So here's my account schedule name that I'm on. Here's the default column layout. I'm going to go ahead and reset this since it's now the 6th. And then down here you'll also notice that you can set filters. You have to have an analysis view attached before these filters show down here. I'm going to go ahead and take them off because I just want to see it without any filters because I've preset some filters on the lines of my account schedule. So I'll go ahead and do a preview. And so you will see that I'm getting data on two different lines like I expected because this is location 1 and this is location 2 for a total of 600,000. That matches up with the data in our GL account overview for those specific dimensions. If I escape back, I can take it one step further with this analysis view, and I can actually now filter down here. So if I only want to see, say, location 2, I could filter. Go ahead and do a preview. And you'll notice because I filtered the request panel to say I only want to see location 2, there's nothing that's going to print in location 1. I can even take that further and I could say, okay, I want to put a project filter and I want to do the give lunch one. And then do a preview. And we're not getting any data because there is no combination of data that is location 2 for our GL branch and give lunch for our project. you can kind of see the power on at least the count schedule of how if you have analysis view, it allows you to filter by those shortcut dimensions. It also allows you to filter within the account schedule definition by those same filters. Now what I'm going to show you is how you can do something similar with column layouts. So again, you can attach your analysis views to your account schedule itself and or your column layout. I'm going to go back out and go to my search for my column layout. When you're looking here, I'm going to do the first one with the gear because I want to get to setup. And so this is one of them that I use, but the other one, because I've defined a column layout where basically the GL branch codes go across as fields in the column. So I'm going to call it, I called it by GL branch. Let's go ahead and open up this one. Let me go full screen. And on this one, you will see if I scroll over that I have shortcut dimensions for each of these columns because I'm in column layout, so these are the columns. Before I had the branches going down on rows, now they're going to go across in columns. This is probably a more common need than the other way, but I wanted to show you both so how you could filter by dimensions within the account schedule and how you can define column layouts by dimensions as well. And again, the reason you're seeing column headers here is because I have an analysis view tied to my account schedule column layout. If I didn't, you wouldn't see those. So see how I have my column layout also linked to that analysis view. Again, that's what then displays the dimension name. Let's go ahead and we'll go run it. I'll do a search. And I'll go ahead and I'll run the report. Again, remember account schedule is the setup of the account schedule. Account schedule is the report. You'll notice that there's two, portrait, landscape. I'll go ahead and run the portrait one. It remembered my filters from when I ran it from account schedule. So all I have to do here is change what I want to print. And I'm going to switch it to this one because this one does not have GL branch filters on the lines of the account schedule. I could switch the column layout, but notice how the column layout updated when I picked this account schedule. That's because I have a default column layout attached to that account schedule. Okay, that's why it came in. If I didn't, it would be blank. Has my same date filters from when I ran this report previously and my dimension filters down here. So we'll go ahead and clear them out. And then I'll go ahead and do a preview. You'll notice what we have here, instead of the GL branch going down in rows, it's going across in columns. So this is a nice one if you wanted to do some type of report where you're doing, you want to see expenses across some combination of your global and your shortcut dimensions. You can, because you can define filters at the column level. Same thing you could do at the row level. So that's how you can use those analysis views with your column layouts and your account schedule. That's the portion that I wanted to show you is how they can be used with your account schedule. So this time I'll open it up for questions if anybody had any questions on how to analyze your data and or how to set up analysis views and or run your account schedules with analysis views.
Kimmery unmuted everyone, so you can ask away.
We've lulled everybody to sleep, Connie, with our presentation.
I guess so, Karen.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
You are most welcome. All right, well, I guess if no one has questions, then we'll go ahead and conclude the training for today. And once this is completed and the recording's compiled, then Kimmery will have that available on our YouTube channel for future viewing if you want to watch it again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.